Okay, we can go ahead and get started.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for taking time out of your morning today. Um, I'd like to thank you for joining. For anybody who doesn't know who I am, my name is Brian Trippi. I'm the lead technical architect of Concurrency, and we are a ServiceNow partner and Microsoft partner, and our primary goal is to help organizations unlock the full potential of the Now platform. And we do that in a variety of ways. I have been in the IT operations ecosystem for a little over 2 decades, and ServiceNow is just my current tool set that I've leveraged. I've done everything from Remedy to Freshservice to Microsoft Service Manager and a lot more in between. But my primary focuses are on, ITSM, ITOM, HRSD, PPM, SPM, and a lot of business process automation. So what I wanted to do is over the next hour, explore some of the most critical challenges facing orgs today. And that's primarily organizational silos. So over the past, I'd say 2 years, I've really seen it where organizations, as they're interacting with ServiceNow, primarily are leveraging it only for uh, IT operations and haven't really taken advantage of the full capability to integrate other departmental instances into their environment. But when you have silos, it kind of slows down your processes, increases errors, and can ultimately limit revenue potential. But what I'd like to do is show you how ServiceNow can overcome some of these challenges. Now, hopefully by the end of this session, I can have you guys walk away with some actionable strategies that maybe you guys can take to your organizations or have thought exercises around to kind of break down those silos and maybe automate some cross-team processes and try to maximize your investment in ServiceNow. So let's start by acknowledging what the reality is, right? That most organizations are facing today. Organizational silos, they're not just necessarily an inconvenience, but they can drag down business performance, right? So one of the things that I found is according to McKinsey, 20% of employee time is wasted searching for information just to complete tasks. And if you equate that to every single employee, that's a full day every week per employee in downtime that they're looking for information to do things against. Another interesting thing is Harvard put out that another 9% of time is spent reorienting yourself to tasks after finding that information. So you go looking for it, you find it, and then you have to context switch and go back, and that in turn loses even more time. And one of my favorite places, Gartner, says that 43% of employees miss important information simply because they have too many applications open. How many of you are guilty of the 30, 40 Firefox or Chrome or Safari tabs in your browsers, trying to find different pieces of information? I know I am. Now, for technical leaders, that means slower incident and task resolution times and increased mean time to resolve. For IT leaders, it could be increase of errors, limits your revenue growth because you're spending more time doing things that your employees shouldn't necessarily be doing versus focused on income generating opportunities and projects. Um, it can lead to frustrated teams because teams can't find the information that they're looking for or they need to go ask somebody. So all of those things kind of lead up to issues that we're finding within orgs. But let me paint a little bit more specific picture of what these silos kind of actually cost your business. So when systems are kind of disconnected, your teams can get forced into doing manual work. So they're copying data from one system to another, and sometimes that can ultimately get you duplicate data. There's manual handoffs between teams. So if something needs to get escalated or reassigned to another team, There's emails flying back and forth trying to figure out where things are supposed to go, and that increases time. They could be following different processes for the same type of work, depending on what department they're in. Even worse, no one has visibility into where the work actually stands. IT doesn't know what's happening. HR, customer service can't see what's happening in IT, and vice versa. Sometimes finance is even operating its own world. But all this compounds with the explosion of like digital services. Sometimes seeing a 10 to 20% increase in incident volume in some cases. You know, both from employees using digital services and underlying infrastructure supporting those services. So if you're having manual processes and you're not automating in some way, shape, or form through ServiceNow or other means, you simply just can't hire enough people to do all the manual input and tasking and processes across different silos. So that's where the real crisis emerges, right? Without automation or integration, the ability to scale in that manner is fundamentally broken. So for executive leaders, this is, basically a ceiling on your growth in some areas. For technical leaders, this means your teams are drowning in reactive work instead of driving innovation in some of your more problematic areas. So ServiceNow fundamentally changes this, right? There are a lot of opportunities now that ServiceNow has come out with over the years that help organize disconnected and disparate systems. And ServiceNow helps provide a unified platform that allows you to connect everything. So the Now platform it's not just another tool like in your technology stack, it's designed to be essentially a digital nervous system, right? For connecting all your different departmental areas like IT, HR, customer service, facilities, finance, legal. All of those different disparate departments can fundamentally be brought into ServiceNow and align with the same underlying architecture, right? And one of the things at the foundation of this is something called CSDM, or Common Service Data Model, right? It standardizes services and hierarchical organization of what different departmental entities provide the business and provides consistency across your org, right? So everyone works from a single shared understanding of your services, assets, processes. But it's not just about data integration. ServiceNow enables you to build workflows that actually span different departments, right? Take an employee onboarding workflow. That's one of the more prevalent ones actually that I've seen this year is a lot of companies are trying to standardize either their onboarding processes, either from a request mechanism or even deployment from HR specific as a module deployment, right? Onboarding, offboarding, moves, adds, changes, all of those things. If you think about it, all have to work with multi-department in order to facilitate onboarding, right? So it's a perfect example of how you can integrate different departmental entities in order to cohesively provide some automation to a platform and converge those silos. And with AI-powered automation built into the platform now, you're not just connecting systems, you're essentially eliminating all the manual work entirely. Now, for technical leaders, this means that you can finally deliver integrated experiences that your users are actually asking for. And for executives, it means operational efficiency at scale and the ability to grow without necessarily having to grow headcount, right? So what does that get you? So the Now platform being your digital nervous system connecting every department, right? So trying to get all of your different disparate departments into one singular system in order to do cross-platform automation. So what outcomes can you expect if you try to automate? When you automate cross-team processes with ServiceNow, you're attacking inefficiency at its root. First, you're reducing errors, right? The more you do manual data entry and do handoffs to different teams, mistakes can happen there, right? Somebody gets a context wrong, or somebody doesn't follow a playbook or a process effectively. And if there's no validation along the way, those errors can creep up. But when a workflow can automatically move information from one system to another, validating it along the way, the errors tend to disappear because everything's in a standardized process. Second, you can accelerate your resolution times. Instead of tickets sitting in queues waiting for somebody to manually move them to the right team, you can do intelligent routing and automation to ensure that workflows go to the right place immediately, be it by asset or CI or service, or even something as simple as category subcategory routing. Third's critical for execs, right? The ability to free up people to focus on activities that directly contribute to revenue growth, right? Focusing on problem areas that otherwise would be better served with their insight and their expertise in order to strategize a solution around. When your teams aren't bogged down with manual tasks, they can focus on innovating and customer relationships and focusing on strategic objectives for the business. And they're not theoretical benefits, right? Organizations implementing ServiceNow are seeing real measurable returns, right? So if you start automating these processes along the lines of the real pain points of your organization, in ITSM alone, if you start automating processes across the entire stack, especially interdepartmental, a lot of companies are seeing over 450% ROI in 3 years, right? So that's time clawed back. That's real savings for businesses. 365% in strategic portfolio management. So if you talk about automating some of these things across your entire portfolio stack, that's real time savings, especially in CSM, right? Automating CSM interactions, how those are being routed to different teams, the cross-departmental interactions between different customer satisfaction orgs, ensuring that these processes are iterated, automated, people are following standardized processes, playbooks that they can action against. All of these things are fully verified numbers that people are real time seeing across various areas inside of your different technology stacks. So one of the tools that makes this possible, and I'm sure everybody on this call has probably heard of it, Flow Designer, right? And if you haven't heard of it, Flow Designer is a no-code workflow automation tool. Think of it like an engine that powers cross-team automation without requiring your team to write complex scripts. Now, that's not saying that you can't write complex scripts or do extremely complex things with Flow Designer, but it's been brought out with the understanding that not everybody knows how to do deep development. So allowing you a tool that can help you do that is hugely important. So here's what makes Flow Designer so powerful, right? It comes with depending on your license, right? It comes with hundreds of pre-built actions out of the box, right? Need to send an email? There's an action. Need to create a record in another table? There's an action. Need to call an external API? You can leverage Integration Hub to talk to, I believe they're up to 175 different integrated partners that you can interact with. You can add conditional logic, right? If this happens, do this. Otherwise, do something else. You can create subflows that go and do other things. Think of it like Lego blocks. You can iteratively build different facets of workflow for different areas to consume, and then they can in turn pull those into their own workflows. And critically, you can test and debug those workflows in real time, right? Seeing exactly what data is coming through in each step. So what it means is you're not bottlenecked, waiting for devs to write custom code for every workflow. Your technical admins and even BAs can build and maintain workflows themselves. I've seen companies go and have, specifically BAs go in and write some of these flows, given the proper training, of course, right? Where they can go and take business requirements from the org and develop a flow that is good for them to leverage and maintain. Now, for technical leaders, this means faster time to value and a reduction in technical debt, right? For executives, this means agility. You can adapt processes as your business changes without lengthy development cycles. So who benefits? Technical admins, BAs, power users, anybody that you can feel that can benefit from automating something for maybe their particular department or their specific organization. Flow Designer can help automate if they have a standardized process. And that's the key goal here, right? That's the key phrase, standardizing processes. If it's not standardized, it's not something that should be automated and should go back to organizational change to get standardized, and then it should be brought into automation. So let's talk about a real world example, right? Employee onboarding. Now, in a traditional approach, when an employee is hired, right, somebody in HR manually creates a request for IT, then somebody manually goes and provisions an account in AD, and then maybe it goes over to facilities and they manually assign a desk, and then maybe somebody in training it manually enrolls them in a course, and each handoff takes time. Things get missed, right? So you can use Flow Designer, or if you have HRSD, you can use things like lifecycle events and training and all of those reward pieces that come out of HRSD to do the same things. But if you don't have HRSD, you can leverage Flow Designer to do some of the same things. And bring in those orgs into ServiceNow and give them areas to manage work and then route all that work effectively through one centralized request. Right? So think about it this way. With Flow Designer, you can build one workflow that can pretty much orchestrate everything, right? When a new hire record gets created in the employee center, for example, you can trigger the flow and it can create all the different IT requests through something called a catalog request that would effectively create a bunch of requests for all the different departments, right? They're called order guides. So think about it this way. If somebody needs a laptop, a phone, network account, a desk, you can create all those different requests at the same centralized area and have all of those things run in parallel. You can have it provision software licenses in the back end, give them role-based access control in AD. You can communicate with facilities and have them assign a desk if you have all of your desk locations inside of ServiceNow. You can have a personalized welcome email get sent with first day instructions to the employee and manager. You can have them enroll in required training courses if there's a third-party integration to whatever training software you're leveraging. And you can update the manager on everything. Now, what does this do for technical people, right? For technical people, it allows you to see what you can do from a cross-platform perspective into those disparate silos. So typically what we've seen is an average IT HR employee onboarding request can take upwards of 5 days in some orgs, especially large ones, right? There's a lot of things that have to happen, but we can get that down to a little less than 2 hours. And we've done this for clients. But getting all those disparate processes into one streamlined workflow for onboarding, offboarding, and moves as changes, that's something everybody should strive for, because just think about all that reduction in human capital effort, right? Let's talk about something else that's in the platform that can be leveraged to claw back time, right? And that's virtual agent. So virtual agents, for anybody that doesn't know, is the AI-powered conversational interface that's facilitating self-service requests, not only in the employee area of the tool, but also on the back end for analyst interactions. So it's essentially an intelligent chatbot, but it's a little bit more sophisticated than some of the frustrating bots you may have experienced anywhere. It's purpose-built for ServiceNow and can leverage enterprise workflows that are built in ServiceNow in order to facilitate work and interactions with customers. So here's how it works. An employee or customer types a question in natural language, right? No special formatting, keywords, just how they'd ask a regular person. And then virtual agent can understand the intent behind that question using natural language processing and can do that in more than 10 different languages at the moment. And they're enhancing this all the time. So it can take action. It can reset passwords, look up order statuses, checking leave balances, requesting software, opening tickets, all through conversation. And it can provide rich responses back via text, images, direct links to knowledge, and it can take actions or even give you summaries from knowledge. So if it finds something that you're struggling with or have an issue with, it can look all of that. Now, what's incredibly new and powerful for Now Assist and Virtual Agent is it integrates generative AI capabilities directly into Virtual Agent. So instead of having to train the system on every possible question, which is what it used to do in the past, we can now use LLMs that can understand questions it's never seen and then generate contextual responses by drawing from either knowledge base or your service catalog or other information in the tool. So what that means practically is you can deploy a sophisticated virtual agent much faster and it gets smarter over time. So for technical leaders, this means dramatically reduced ticket volume because you can triage and subsequently interact with users outside of analyst interaction before they even get to create a ticket and maybe divert them from ever creating a request or give them actionable knowledge that they can fundamentally take back and execute against. So it prevents them from even putting out a ticket or generating a request. So it essentially means 24/7 service availability, right? Without having to scale your support team. And you can measurably improve your employee and customer sat because now you can give them actionable insights and direct them to where they're trying to go and ultimately giving them more of like a Google-esque experience inside of ServiceNow. So let's talk about some of the measurable outcomes that some of the orgs that we've seen deploy this in are actually seeing, right? So first are higher deflection rates. So depending on how you have virtual agents stood up, the amount of requests that you're offering and the amount of services that you're giving to your employee base, we're seeing higher deflection rates in the neighborhood of 40 to 60%, depending on what's out there, right? Of just the routine requests that are being handled without human intervention. So think of it like guided interaction, where they're guiding the user through the creation of these requests. So it minimizes user hold time, and then your agents can go focus on other things that are more complex, and users get immediate response. So there's essentially no waiting. So they get a better experience, right? So when routine requests are deflected, your agents can do more work, but from an employee experience, it's transformational, right? So instead of the dreaded help desk call, they can quickly get what they need through a conversational interface, which is the more up-to-date interaction method that a lot of people are gravitating towards. And they can quickly get what they need through that interface, and it feels natural. Now, let me go back. From a cost perspective, what I'd like to say is that you're reducing your agent workload, right? So that claws back time. You're not reducing your service quality because you should be able to facilitate all those interactions up front. And then for technical leaders, that means your team can finally focus on strategic work instead of being overwhelmed by reactive tickets like password resets and I need a laptop and all this other stuff. And then for executives, that directly impacts operational efficiency metrics, right? And your ability to scale your service delivery without scaling linear cost growth, right? So another thing that is essentially another layer on top, and this was just announced this year, and that's something called AI Control Tower. So AI Control Tower was launched in May of this year at Knowledge, and it's already GA. So what is it? AI Control Tower is essentially the command center for enterprise AI. As organizations are deploying more AI agents, models, automated workflows, not just from ServiceNow, but from third-party vendors as well, there's a critical need to start governing and managing all of these intelligent systems. So AI Control Tower provides that visibility. You can see every AI agent working in your environment, understand what they're working on, monitor their performance, and govern their behavior. And it's huge for several reasons. First, compliance and governance. As regulations around AI emerge, you need to demonstrate control over how AI is being used in your org. AI Control Tower embeds governance capabilities and allows you to set policies that ensure they're enforced. Second is security and risk management. You can identify when AI agents are accessing sensitive data, monitor them for unusual behavior, and help mitigate risk. Third's optimization. You can see which AI agents are delivering value, which are allowing you to continuously improve. Now, for technical leaders, it provides organizational control that we need to confidently deploy these agents at scale. For executives, it de-risks your AI investments and ensures you're getting measurable ROI from your AI initiatives. And critically, this isn't just for ServiceNow AI. It works for third-party agents and models as well. It gives you true enterprise-wide visibility into what all your AI agents are doing. And again, it's generally available. But the big thing is this works with ServiceNow AI and third-party agents and models, which is huge. Closely related to AI Control Tower is another breakthrough. It's AI Agent Fabric. So here's the problem. So here's the problem that essentially AI Fabric solves, right? So as organizations deploy AI agents, often from different vendors, right? You might have ServiceNow AI agents handling IT workflows, Microsoft AI agents handling productivity tasks, third-party AI agents handling specialized functions. But these agents can't talk to each other. Those agents work in silos. AI Agent Fabric solves that. Think of it like a communication protocol, right? That allows AI agents to collaborate with one another. So imagine this scenario, right? An employee asks virtual agent for help with a complex issue that touches multiple systems. So virtual agent recognizes that and it needs help, right? It can't do the thing by itself. So maybe it goes and reaches out to Microsoft's AI agent that has access to productivity information. Or maybe it reaches out to an Adobe AI agent that can handle document workflows, or a DocuSign agent if it needs something to get signed or something for signatory. The AI agents all work autonomously to resolve the employee's request, handing off the information and coordinating actions. So this is something that they're calling multi-agentic workflows, and it's the future of enterprise AI, right? So ServiceNow has partnered with a bunch of major technology companies, and you can see some of them on the right. Microsoft, IBM, Google, Adobe, Cisco, and others to make some of this a reality. Now, again, it's supposed to be in Q3 or in Q4. It should be GA now, but for some people, it might be GA depending on licensing. For others, this is a purchasable thing. But for technical leaders specifically, if you're thinking about multi-agentic workflow, this can assist with that. And it's not just connecting systems, but it's connecting intelligence. Again, for executives, this means that if you have AI investments across multiple vendors and you have ServiceNow, this can help bridge some of those different systems and help them work more seamlessly with one another. So another thing is Now Assist, and this is more of AI on the agent side, right? So we have virtual agent that can help on the customer side. Now Assist is AI for the agent itself on the back end. So just last month, actually, no, actually, I think it's this month. So they just released their new AI models. It's basically version 2.0. And they have a bunch of different models now that you can interact with. And For IT agents, Now Assist can do a lot more things than it could before. It can summarize lengthy tickets, highlighting key information. It can generate resolution notes based on actions taken. So it can reduce wrap-up time. It can create knowledge articles for you on the fly based on your resolution notes that are generated. So these are all things that it could do before, but now it can do a lot more efficiency, and it has a lot more capability with the models that it has the ability to attach to. In addition, it can also have multi-model support, right? So you can connect to Azure, OpenAI, Claude, Gemini, all of the major LLMs. Now, for employees that are using search, Now Assist also helps provide actionable answers. So not just listing knowledge articles to read, but it also helps summarize or provide step-by-step instructions to help solve their problem. And these are things that allow you to give employees actionable information so they can help do self-service and resolve things for themselves. Now, for technical leaders, one other thing. For specific licensed individuals with Now Assist, if you have the creators subsection for Now Assist, being able to do text to code is insanely cool for those who ever tried it. Essentially, it is giving admins and analysts the ability to write a comment of something that they want to see in a particular script area, and ServiceNow will go generate that script for them. It's insanely cool if you haven't seen it before. I recommend you guys go check it out. But what does all this mean? So this isn't just something like it's a separate AI tool that is just out there, but it's embedded into workflows and systems in ServiceNow that you're already leveraging. So it's just it's a natural add-on enhancement. So for technical leaders, it's essentially AI augmentation for your entire team. Granted, right now, it's limited in its capability for the things that it currently does, but again, they have plans to expand this even more in the next year, and it's going to be doing some pretty cool stuff in the future. But for executives, again, it's all coming down to efficiency. How much faster can we get our employees to do things and claw back time? Because time equals money, and money that we can claw back is savings. So let's step back and talk about the broader org impact, right? So when you implement ServiceNow as your unified platform, your IT teams can stop working in isolation from business teams. You can connect them all. So if you're only using ServiceNow for IT, I would encourage you to start looking at leveraging it for all your other business units and getting them into the platform and start doing cross-departmental interactions. But it goes beyond IT, right? So again, HR, finance, legal, all of those corporate functions can all operate on the same platform. And using the foundation for ServiceNow being that CSDM, organizing them around a standardized data model means everybody can speak the same language. And it enables all of this in addition to enterprise-wide reporting. So you can report across all of these. Now, from a practical standpoint, if you can integrate all of these cross-departmental areas into ServiceNow, you can start seeing faster times. You can integrate cross-platform and cross-departmental areas in order to streamline their efficiencies and get things done faster. So what I wanted to do is take a minute to bring you up to speed on some of the latest ServiceNow innovations, right? So, we had Yokohama, and we have Zurich, and we're moving into the next iteration. But in Q4, Zurich is going to release multi-agentic workflows. So this is where you're able to do workflows and leverage multiple different AI agents to collaborate simultaneously. And, they also released something called the Vault console. If you are into encryption and security and you're leveraging Vault, there's now a console that allows you to have enhanced data protection, which I wanted to make you guys aware of. But similarly, agentic playbooks, which are pretty cool. Allow you, if anybody hasn't used it before, essentially like if you have a process and somebody net new comes on board, these playbooks can guide them through a resolution of XYZ thing, right? Now, these agentic playbooks are these playbooks in the past are something that you would have to set up, but now with being able to create with LLMs and things like that, they're giving you the ability to spin these playbooks up, leveraging agents. On AI front, we have the world which connects the Now platform to AWS, Microsoft, SAP, Snowflake, and that means AI agents can act and access data across all these different stacks. So if it can't find it inside of the service, now it can go to another stack and access whatever data it needs. There's also the AI experience interface. It's basically AIX for short. It's essentially a new contextual conversational way to interact with the platform. Instead of clicking through forms and menus, they're giving you the ability to just describe what you need, and then it'll go and then help you create it inside of ServiceNow. And then one thing, I don't know if anybody saw, but ServiceNow just announced with NVIDIA, they are in partnership to create a new LLM for them. And it's April NemoMotion 15B, which is a reasoning language model specifically designed for enterprise agentic AI in concert with ServiceNow. So if anybody can see where this is going, ServiceNow is laying heavy into the agentic ecosystem as well as big data interactions into multiple disparate systems. So they're giving you more of an ability to connect all of these systems and provide a centralized area to do those interactions and also incorporate business process automation. So if you can look at that at scale and at a more macro perspective, if you can a request and have access to all of these intrinsic systems in your environment, and through multi-agent interactions, get whatever needs to be done without the assistance of an agent, which is huge when you're talking about, doing more with less, which is a lot of things that we're seeing now. So let's talk about real world outcomes, because at the end of the day, technology needs to deliver, right? So again, automation reduces error. Typically, it has audit tied to it, right? It allows you to generate consistent processes across departments. It allows you to have automation validation and quality checks. It can help drive revenue, right? It frees your resources up to do other revenue generating or project deployments or net new things. You can do faster time to market with new services, right? And you can improve your customer satisfaction by giving them the ability to present information to them where they can self-serve. We showed earlier how employee onboarding was reduced from 5 days to 2 hours. We also showed how virtual agent users are seeing 40 to 60% reduction in ticket deflection, and how there has been 450% ROI in ITSM by just giving people access to being able to request things that are in the environment across multi-departmental stacks versus having to go to X, Y, and Z place in order to request those things. According to ServiceNow's Enterprise AI Maturity Index from 2025, 55% of the organizations using agentic AI report improved gross margins. That's profit margin improvement, not just operational efficiency. So for technical leaders, these metrics justify continued in automation now for executives, now measurable outcomes that hit your bottom line. It's not just improved for IT operations. So let me talk about a case study that brings all of this to fruition, right? So we worked with a mid to large size company, right? About 5,000 employees that was experiencing exactly the issues we were discussing. IT was using one system, HR was using another, facility had their own tools, but nothing talked to one another. So their employee onboarding process averaged about 7 days, right? And worse, about 30% of the new hires experienced errors. So of course you could understand that their CSAT scores were low, to say the least. But with ServiceNow as their unified platform, we built Flow Designer and leveraged Flow Designer to build cross-department workflows that span the entire onboarding process from HR, IT, facilities. Had that integrated with virtual agents, so you had the ability to do self-service for common requests, and then standardize everything on this service model. So their onboarding times dropped from 7 days to essentially a day and a half. Just to get their user created, went from a day to an hour and a half, just with synchronization across Active Directory and Entra and things like that. But their IT ticket volume dropped because of it. Instead of having to submit multiple tickets to multiple different departments, they got to one area and that workflow did everything for them. So here's the measure that most executives care about, right? Their net promoter score, or basically the measure of employee sat. That improved by 40 points. So that's what breaking down silos looks like in practice, right? It's not just theory, it's measurable business transformation. So for technical leaders, it demonstrates kind of the art of the possible when you start integrating all of these disparate areas. But for executives, it's the business case for investing even more in the Now platform and getting these silos into ServiceNow and start automating them either through flows or agentic or AI or individual modules that integrate with these cross platforms. So how do you get started, right? So I want to put this up here. This is kind of my thoughts on how you get started with trying to break down these silos. And it's essentially like finding out what's frustrating your teams. Document out the workflows that are spanning multiple departments, measure the time spent on manual handoffs. What I'd like to see is you can take these and see if you can do them in your own environment. In the next 30 days, if you haven't ever built a workflow inside of ServiceNow, build your first workflow. Choose a high volume routine process, maybe a standard service request that's currently manual, automate it end to end. See if you can do it. That's your POC. If you have virtual agent licensed to you, deploy it and have it work against your top 10 most repetitive requests. Password resets, status checks, simple inquiries, quick wins that you can demonstrate value against. If you haven't implemented CSDM for critical services, start looking at your environment. What do you guys provide the business as a service? Start thinking about and having thought exercises around that. If you're deploying AI, establish governance. If you have access to AI Control Tower, start leveraging it to manage your AI initiatives and govern it. Beyond 90 days, this is where you can try to scale. If you have access to multi-department already existing in your ServiceNow environment, expand your workflows to those departments. Try to unify through one request those disparate areas and try to do more with less. Try to integrate with those external systems. If you have access to Integration Hub, leverage it. It has a lot of interactions with all of these external systems that can be measurably leveraged. Always continually measure and optimize based on what you're seeing. If requests pop up, start taking a look and generating workflows and automations against it. Even playbooks help standardize your processes. So how can we help? We kind of operate in 3 different domains. We can do a variety of different things. We can help with assessment and strategy. We can help you do a current state analysis of your environment. What's working? What's not working? What have you seen? What are your problem points? What are your pain points? We can do ROI modeling. What are your top 10 requests? What are those manual times? What's your cost? What does that look like in audit? Savings per year. We can help you develop roadmaps. If you are trying to figure out what your ServiceNow direction is for 2026, we can help with that. We do implementations. We can do module implementations. We can do flow designer workflow development, virtual agent deployment, agentic AI. We can integrate with disparate systems. We can help you with your CMDB, ITOM. We can help you optimize. We can take a look at things in your environment if you're reporting for slowness or you're looking to continuously improve and you don't have a that as well. Having looked at AI governance, we can help you with that. We're here to help guide you in every step of your ServiceNow journey. What is in here? It's sources that you guys can leverage in order to further. And ServiceNow has a ridiculously good community. There is the learning portal. You can get certified in Flow Designer. There's virtual agent training available to customers. You can leverage. And I'm going to make sure that this deck is shared with you guys after the webinar, so you guys can have all of this information when we're done. So let's bring it all together. So what have you learned? Silos can cost organization time, money, and revenue. ServiceNow can work to break down those silos and unify workflows. Flow Designer can help you automate cross-team processes. Virtual Agent can deliver AI-powered self-service. An AI control tower can help you govern AI across your organization. So I encourage you, schedule a consultation with us. We can discuss your environment, your pain points, talk about roadmaps. Go back to your teams. Identify your top 3 silo pain points. What are the biggest opportunities for improvement? Request a demo from us. We can show you Flow Designer, Virtual Agent in action, even look at agentic AI and things like that. Start planning. Even if your implementation is 6 months away, planning now will help set you up for success. We can help you accelerate your results, and we can do that together. So I'd like to leave some time to open it up to questions, comments. We've covered a lot of ground, but I'm sure if anybody has any specific questions in the chat or otherwise, feel free to bring them up. And yeah.
Let's see. It doesn't look like we have any questions, so we can go ahead and wrap it up today, and definitely be in touch if you do, want to reach out.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for taking the time. And I appreciate you all being here. Thanks, everybody.